our last board meeting is adding to our ALS coverage, as well as some additional BLS coverage in the borough. Right now, we have 2 BLS ambulances 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and a medical flying car 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. What we're hoping to do is add an ALS provider paramedic to one of our ambulances to make 2 paramedics in the town at different times. What that turns into, we don't know.
Explain ALS and BLS.
Sorry, ALS and BLS. ALS is the paramedic. That's the highest level of care. BLS is what we call the basic life support. So right now we have 2 ambulances on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. 1 fly car you see driving on the right car. He's the paramedic. He's the ALS provider. So no problem. So what our hope is and our goal is to add to our ALS level presence. We get busy. This morning we went 5 or 6 calls deep in a matter of 10 or 15 minutes. That ties up that paramedic at times. Sometimes your paramedic is going out of town, and we're doing mutual aid calls. So we want to be able to increase that coverage and increase that layer there. So something that I think is really, really important, and I think pretty cool to know is Naugatuck Ambulance has never, ever in the history of Naugatuck Ambulance hired its own paramedics. And that's something that we're looking at moving towards to do. The cost of what we do does not go down. Our reimbursements do not go up. I've explained that a few times. I've got some numbers I can share with you. But the nitty gritty of it is our payer mix is about 70 to 76% Medicare and Medicaid. And with those trips, we only get a small fraction of what we're allowed to do. And that doesn't make up for the cost of doing business. And what we do, we have to do. And with the support from the borough that we get from you folks and the providers that we have out there doing it, we've been doing it. When we compare, what our ask is to other municipalities and other services our size that are made up the same way, it's a fraction. It's a fraction of the cost. And I think the cost that the contribution that the borough has been giving us right now certainly makes up for the job that we're out there trying to do and that our folks are out there. Our goal last year was that we'd be in a position where we would have had established our own private billing company. We tried that, didn't quite work out as well as we wanted it to. We've got a new approach. We're hoping that will kick off in the next few months. There'll be a cost savings for us. And we're also looking at another avenue to collect some of those monies that were once classified as uncollectible, not necessarily collections. And it was a gentleman that was referred to us by. We're looking at a new collections company, and we go different routes. And there's different methods at trying to collect some of this money. There's patients that get billed unbeknownst to us to a point, and they get the bills get paid by their insurance company directly to them. And when that happens, that's sorry, you gotta have somebody to go out there again. Co-pays, different things like that. So we're trying to better get a handle on those outstanding monies, which is a lot. And it doesn't make up for what we call our contractual allowances with our insurances. For instance, we should have been able to bill out last calendar year around $4.5 million. No, I lied. $6.5 million, but about $3.5 million right off the rip came off of that because of contractual allowances. So all that money is not collectible. Zero of it. So that extra that's in there somewhere, we want to try and get. So that's what we're doing. We're trying to do everything we can to generate more revenue. When we go out of town, when our paramedic goes out of town, we have some agreements with other towns, Middlebury, Beacon Falls, Bethany, Seymour. We'll have one in Woodbury soon. We do what we call paramedic intercepts. So every time our paramedic goes out of town, they ride on that ambulance to the hospital. We bill that service directly. So that's kind of a guaranteed income generator. We have this last year plus been staffing other towns with EMTs. Again, something Naugatuck Ambulance has never ever done in the history of Naugatuck Ambulance. This past year, we just hit our about 6-month mark with Bethany. We've been staffing Bethany Monday through Friday, different times, throughout the day to cover their ambulance with our EMTs. So far this year, I think we've covered about 2,000 hours worth of hours for veterans. So what does that do for us? We absolutely. You know, so what does that do for us? That's an upcharge that hourly rate, to a point. Obviously there are friends and there are our neighbors, so we don't want to, you know, go crazy, but we want to make our costs and make a few dollars on top of it also. So that's something we've been doing. We're looking at other ways to increase some revenues. Like I said, adding a paramedic and having that additional paramedic available at different times will help with some of those intercepts. Will help with some of those times where a medic is not available for one of our calls, and we'll be able to bill appropriately. So our ask again for this year has been at 350,000 moving forward, like we did last year. We've sectioned it out over the course of the fiscal year in equal installments, which I think for us has been very beneficial. We've been able to plan accordingly.
Okay, any questions for Kyle?
With better, and that's a big point to know, is we have been able to, without it, we wouldn't be able to replace some of these things that were just aging out, for lack of better terms.
Okay, we have a couple questions. Diane?
Yeah, just when you do mutual aid, and let's say you go to Bethany, if you're able to bill that patient insurance, Bethany does, correct?
So there's two different types of mutual aid for us. We have our paramedic, which just the paramedic goes. In that scenario, Naugatuck Ambulance bills Bethany Fire Department, and then Bethany Fire Department takes care of billing the patient.
Okay,
They may not get all of that
right.
money from the insurance, but we know we're gonna get that $315 from doing that paramedic intercept. The other side of it is when we send an ambulance,
Right.
BLS ambulance with 2 EMTs. That's when they just get overloaded.
Right,
Then we're billing out like normal. We're gonna bill the patient and let nature take its course.
okay, because I know we've had to depend upon mutual aid in other towns, so I was just wondering how the billing went, okay.
Yeah, so when the ambulance goes and it's the BLS ambulance, it's that ambulance service is doing it.
Thank you.
James, did you have a question?
Over the past few years, just the opposite of what we were.
Right, exactly, because of it, yeah.
To help us, now we're able to go out.
That's why I like to emphasize the fact that we are going out, last week we had a emergency meeting, I think it was. And just a few days prior, we went out to Middlebury. We sent the full ambulance out to Middlebury for cardiac arrest that was across the street from the firehouse. And the crew that worked that code saved the gentleman's life. So we have done a substantial amount of mutual aid. Not just in the Waterbury, which you would think that would be the focal point, but it's everywhere around it.
Okay, Kyle, James has a question for you.
Do you foresee any like major purchases in the next couple of years, maybe another vehicle of sorts, or?
So
the
vehicle
building?
wise, this year we're hoping to, hopefully, to replace or add to our flight car. There's another ambulance that should be in the next month or so. The following year, I'm looking at another ambulance purchase, or what we call a remount. This is something that is possible, depending if there's somebody around.
And how about with the structure of your building? Any like major expenses that you could foresee, roofs?
Not that I can foresee right
basements.
now. Obviously, the borough takes very good care of the building. We just recently this year, which I think was in last year's budget, replaced the heater that was in the back bay. So that was done this past year. Outside of the regular wear and tear of the building, I don't foresee anything, no genie, but anything's possible.
And then finally, just I know when you first took over and you've done a phenomenal job. I think there's no contest there, but you mentioned you were looking to hope to get raises for this year. Would that are the staff members at a level that's reasonable within other EMT organizations? Are we behind still, just so we have a better idea?
I'd say it's still behind.
Okay.
I'd say it's still behind. I'd say as an industry, it's well behind.
Okay.
As an industry, it's well behind. As a service, we're creeping up. We're very close to getting to what services our size and our caliber. Services, the big services like the AMRs and the Trinities, they have contractual obligations that they have because of the unions and things like that. So some of their EMTs are making $25,000, $26,000 an hour, some of their paramedics are making $40. Ours right now range, from 18 to 21 right now, which is far better than it was 2.5 years ago. And I mean, as we progress, I want to do more. I mean, just like everybody else, you know, we all want raises, but my folks are out there, you know, literally saving lives every day. So I want to do whatever I can. But to your point, industry-wise, not even close. Service-wise, we're very. I'd like to think we're very close, at least from what I see in services and stuff.
Thank you.
You know, the Medicare and Medicaid losses aren't unique to Naugatuck. It's everywhere. Every ambulance service is suffering, and now the doctor's offices are even suffering. And the governor proposes a lump sum payment, nothing regular, and the legislature is fighting over this now, I guess, trying to get something more reimbursement for Medicare and Medicaid instead of just, you know, here's $100,000 over the. Let's see what happens with the legislature.
There's actually tomorrow, there's a community, I guess, up at the legislative building for EMS services in the state, so, or Medicare specifically. So we'll see what happens.
When Chief was talking about raises, we look for the beaches have Boston, and the fast food, national fast food chain up there that is advertising $150. And people save lives for them. So if you look at it that way, you know, raises, you know, every year you more, so they get up to a livable rate. And $18 or $19 an hour is not a livable rate. If people will say people what.
That's up, that's background noise from Bob.
Oh,
Okay, now, any other questions for Kyle? No, thank you, Kyle.
thank you.
Okay, next, Assistant Chief Seaman will be presenting the fire department and East Side Firehouse.
Evening, everybody. How are you?
Yeah, James.
No,
Okay, just for point of clarification, since I obviously have a conflict with this budget, I'll be sitting aside. Turn the meeting over to James for the next few minutes.
Well, you're not getting a raise.
No, I'm not.
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, good evening. We have proposed increase of 0.38%. So if we look, our regular payroll, we have a reduction. And that's because Allison had taken the old retirement payouts and the longevity out of that, put it in a different account. So that's why we have a reduction in payroll accounts. We do have a increase in the overtime. And the reason for that is we have 2 people that are eligible to retire. We don't know if they will or not. And we're predicting, planning for possible 5 people leaving the department over this year. The other interesting factor that we've never really had before is we've had some firefighters who had babies and went out on FMLA and spent some time at home with their families. So that's kind of new this year, this past year. So we're planning for that. And the other important piece to that is we have a gentleman who is actively serving in the National Guard. So when he goes on deployment, he gets back. So that's why he increased. The other increase that I want to bring to light is the medical examinations. And the reason for that is OSHA, who governs us as far as safety, plans on adapting some NFPA standards, which was at the time recommendations, but they plan on adopting those references where they would become law and up to 1200. So we do
Walter, who's gonna make it law? The federal government?
federal government, and then OSHA will adopt it, and then it'll become law in Connecticut.
Well, you mean federal law?
Yeah, so we also have OSHA in Connecticut that.
No, I know, but they follow the federal. So
They have to adopt.
you're saying the federal government is
Yes.
gonna make all NAFTA recommendations law?
Not all of them, just 21 of them.
Well, you should show me those 21, please. Okay.
So right now, they are in a comment period, the 90-day comment
Well,
period.
we're gonna have some comments.
Working on mine now.
Sure we will. So, not to alarm any, most of the stuff that they're proposing, we do already. Like all the gear, all the other stuff, we do already as a department. The physicals, they added mental health screening, and they've added like a physical fitness component to that, that's in standard. And I think the big push for that is OSHA hasn't looked at the safety standard for fire departments since 1980. They haven't done anything. The only thing referenced for gear was dated in 1975. So it was time. So we're just planning ahead for that. We're planning ahead for that. We'll see. The mechanical service contracts, building maintenance went up a little bit, just because of costs and inflation. The same thing with departmental supplies. And the chief's expense account, we budgeted for 500 more. 500. That's where, if we have a test and the testing company's here, or if we have a big fire, such as Water Street, he's able to get, resources, in for that, for the, people fighting fire. That sums it up. So like I said, it's, $5,034,537. Difference of $19,219 comes off roughly 0.38%.
Does anyone have any questions? Go ahead, Diane.
Where did that, and maybe this is a question for Allison, that 89,489, where did that go?
Some of it is, just new hires, for like a 1 year, reduction. But, I did move, longevity, and all municipalities are required to follow, uniform, chart of accounts, which is dictated statewide. And I'm slowly moving our account code structure out, and the longevity got pulled away from salary. And I'm just gonna be cleaning up the account codes so they comply with, state requirements. So that isn't much moved, so
There's a change of a minus of 89,000, which is great, but
there's no increase in the contract expired. So there's no increases or
Okay.
changes in the,
the wages.
right, it'll be
Okay.
general wage increases this year.
Okay.
I think that's where you're trying to go to.
Yeah, that,
We got there pretty quickly.
way to sum it up.
Yeah,
Anyone else?
Bob?
When might we know about the retirements?
I have an estimate, but it goes into townwide.
What do you mean, when those two may or may not decide?
Yeah.
They have 60 days before they retire to submit their letters.
Okay. So it could be any time during the fiscal year.
Could be any time.
Okay. Thank you.
Bob, Nath online, did you have anything? Your screen was lighting up.
He's breaking up.
Okay. If you're speaking, Bob, we're not hearing you. Anyone else have anything? All right, want to move on to East Side Fire?
East Side Fire Station, is flat, right? We left it flat. Now, I just want to put on the radar, capital, the apron, will be needed for the dog sick day. So, March 18th will stop that. It's part of the operation.
Anyone have any questions? All right, hearing none, we'll move on.
Yeah, thanks, Bob. Great, emergency management?
Or my question was, no change whatsoever. I did highlight in the, this place tenants and maintenance contracts for townwide standby generators. And those are two placeholders down here. Now, we have a RFP in the works to get a bids on the generator services, maintenance, revenue maintenance services. 48 generators in town, that leased by the communication tower, the ambulance garage, the town hall, and the high school. And those are all standby emergency generators, not the small ones. Like that, in Howard building. And, if you look at, this place tenant, it's never been the line item, emergency management and staff. This past year, as Chief Russell mentioned to me, in the 30 years he's been on the fire department, he has never seen us have to house so many people, mainly the department fires that we had. The ones up on Southwood Apartment, Pond Street Apartment, and we had the ones up on Lantern Park Drive, and 140 Lantern Park Drive.
Like 20 times over, 50 times over average.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, we had 7 families up at Lantern Park, and that fire that we had the house, we had 7 families in Southwood Apartments that had the house. And of course, if you're housing in a hotel room, and you have 4 or 5 people, they can't all stay in the hotel room. So you have to do 2 hotel rooms. That's, increased the price. I, so far, have been able to recoup, since July 1st, $65,344 that I've gotten from, one of them was a management company for an apartment building that was condemned, and the others were, fortunately, a couple of the landlords of Lantern Park gave us a reimbursement for some of the costs. We failed, but that's an exception. And as I said, that was $65,344 since July 1st.
I would just say we had an extraordinary year. We're not gonna have, well, it's highly unlikely we'll have a year like that going forward. So I don't think we need this much, number one. Number two, I think it should be in a different place in the budget. It's really, way beyond emergency management. And what we have, and I would invite anyone who wants to come, Rocky's been coming lately, but we have meetings, maybe not every month, but about every 6 weeks with every department. So we have fire, police, street, zoning, blight, litter, just everything. And there are so many things that fall between the cracks, like hoarding, mental health. It becomes blight, where now we have our police, social workers at the meeting. So all I can tell you is that there are a lot of moving parts and a lot of things. And what I'd like to do is fund that department. And by the way, we get most of the money back. I shouldn't say most of it, but we get a lot back, whether it be blight, zoning enforcement. We got like 90,000 back on a zoning enforcement case last year. So we get a lot of money back. So what I'd like to do is set up an account for all of those items, and make it what do we call it? An account where we'll try and build up the value, and then every year, determine how much, if any, we have to put in it. And I can just tell you that you can't believe the things that are happening in the world today. I'm going to say mostly from a mental health standpoint that go on every day. So I guess what I'm saying is I don't think we need 20. I think 10 would be okay for now. And I'd like to put it in whatever we're calling that other group. I think we call it blight, but it's like way beyond blight. Fran, you good with that?
Yeah, displaced tenants, but not necessarily for fire.
Yeah.
If a building is condemned, then, we're just talking about OSHA coming up with new regulations. This isn't necessarily new regulation. Uniform Relocation Systems Act, which is federal, and then Connecticut adopts it. There's an unfunded mandate saying the town has to put these people up. Then they wash their hands.
There a timeline that they're put up for?
I'll give you a copy of the law.
Yeah, so we get some money back from homeowners insurance. Owners are supposed to pay for their tenants, so like Lantern Park has to pay. Oftentimes there's foreclosures. And, we now have a much better system of intervening in a foreclosure case, giving our lien priority. So we're doing a lot of creative things that we've never done before. So we should be getting even more back going forward. But I would say in the last 5 years, we've gotten way more back than we spent. But most of that money just goes, I assume, somewhere to the general fund. But I'd like to set up an account for that group and then have us try and get everything back and build up the account.
But to give you an example, one of the cases we worked last year, a mobile home had a severe heating oil leak. Ground's contaminated, the trailer's contaminated. We had to relocate the person who lived there, who did not own the unit. The owner of the unit had passed away several years earlier. Partner, yes. Yeah, so how long do we have her at the hotel?
We had her in the hotel for 83 days.
Yeah, and that was not a fire issue, but it's a building and health issue at that point.
And was that money able to,
You know what it is.
right, because the
You
owner
could
of
put
the
a lien,
property.
you could put a lien on that trailer, but the trailer isn't worth
Right.
$500, it costs
Yeah,
more.
Right, so that one's a loss.
That's a loss, right?
If we put a lien on that, and we took the trailer, it
Yeah.
will cost us to get rid of the trailer.
Right.
Because of the contamination.
Then like on a zoning case, we got back $100 a day, so that was
That made up.
almost all profit, so to speak.
Yeah, I think reducing that is right, because if you look at the 78,000, that's actual, and we recoup 65,000, that really brings it to 13,000.
And some of what we recouped since July 1st is actually for.
Prior year,
Prior
okay,
year.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah,
And, I'll continue to go after like insurance companies and so forth. I'm working with one right now to get money for the Pond Street fire. And, that might come this month, it might not come until August.
and are they gonna demolish?
Those insurance.
Yeah, that's
but
right.
they,
We're stinking insurance company.
Are they gonna demolish the building like they promised?
That's what they keep saying.
What? I know.
Fran, for the department itself, are you still a department of just one person? So is there because this
Well,
has
but,
expanded over the few years that I've been in this.
Yeah.
And is there like, are we expecting like an additional person in the future? Like, do you foresee
Not,
any changes with that? Or,
I mean, only because you asked that question, maybe in a few years, you might need a part-time, like an inspector or something, but I don't see that every time.
And there is an assistant director,
There is an assistant director.
just not in this budget.
oh, okay.
Well,
So
the
that was
assistant director
actually,
does-
that was my next question is
That's
who is like the contingency in the department of one? Okay.
Yeah, Chief Russell is the director. Deputy director. And Chief Payne.
I'm filling in for that right now. so, yeah. I'm filling in for that right now, so.
Also in charge of drought, Ken, don't forget that.
And flooding, and floods.
Right.
At the same time.
But we balance them out,
Drought and flood, he's in charge of drought and flood,
yes,
so no matter what's going on, it's his fault.
yes. So we always blame Paul for that. Okay. Any other
Here's
questions?
one thing everyone should know. Drought. When we had our worst period of drought, because of our underground aquifers, even though the reservoirs were very low, we were at 98% capacity. So Naugatuck, Connecticut will never run out of water.
Well, keep those words.
Well, wells are different. You know, wells could run out of water, but the city water supply will never run out.
Remember, our reservoirs are built for all the factories that aren't here anymore. We have way too much, we have a lot of excess here, which is good.
Can we sell any of them?
They actually wanted to make a pipeline from here to Bridgeport. But it doesn't cost that much. Talk like a water.
Okay.
Okay, any more questions for Fran on emergency management?
Just, are we gonna talk about the budget or wait for later?
Well, which, oh, here.
Like, should we remove this 40,000 from the budget as the mayor suggested?
You want to remove that now, or you want to table that one?
I think we could do it now.
Are we transferring?
Well, we're gonna transfer, I would reduce the 20 to 10, so subtract 10 and put the other 10 in whatever we're calling that other account. And when we get to that, we'll discuss it further. And then the 20 is just a placeholder. It seems high to me, Fran, but I don't know.
Well, the maintenance.
The maintenance.
contract, don't those go on town hall? Go into the town hall
Oh,
budget?
I don't know, we've never had
Not
maintenance,
town hall,
so it's
town
hard.
wide.
One at a
Each
time.
department
One at a
does it themselves, yeah.
Took all the generators, put them under one umbrella. And the 20,000 is based on, you know, once we get the proposals back, I looked at, the individual maintenance agreements we have at the present time. And there's a couple different vendors, you know, for the fire department, for the high school. Putting them together, good possibility of reducing that cost. And I'm basing that on what the average, agreement was, the contract was at the present time. And then adding a couple thousand for other repairs.
Yeah, but so who's gonna keep track of taking that out of the other budgets?
We would want, we did the purchase order for the compiled, we code their piece to their account.
Cause I mean, I assume it's somewhere in the fire budget right now, right?
Right, that's what I mean, like, exactly, either it's gonna be here in the individual budget or that townwide activity budget.
Once we know what Fran's gonna spend, we can do that.
So let's just take a note for now.
Yeah, yeah. Maintenance contract.
Yeah.
Maple Hill doesn't have. Yeah, Maple Hill doesn't have. And that's not anybody's budget, that's how it's got stuff. That's the tower, the communication tower, the ambulance garage doesn't have a service agreement, and that's the one that uses the most. Because in WTX. That is, yeah, WTX, that's, in that one, but right, right now, the ambulance garage, there's some of us might know what I'm saying, that's the 1954 Studebaker.
It was never broke down.
Never broke down.
No,
Say a lot of risky things.
They have a generator, they have a generator that we never started, and after 30 years, I'm looking for the quarter and started right up.
Hey, Megan,
That's
do
because-
you know what a Studebaker is?
I didn't think she did.
Whatever you said, sounds risky.
Megan, I have no idea either.
No one's.
So,
Nicole, do you know what a Studebaker is?
yeah, no idea.
It's a generational thing, believe it.
It's a car from 1950s.
You can't shoot it up, you can't go break it up, you can't crash it
So
up.
for,
Realize that one's.
Okay,
older than the
one at a time,
in the
please.
center.
Yeah,
Those are 55.
so the 20 grand for this, whether it's here or somewhere else, is that a one-time cost that covers us for like 3 years? It's every year,
That's a good
okay,
contract. And that includes one minor, preventative maintenance and one major per year.
And that includes the Board of Ed.
Then it includes.
So you gotta double check that when we get to that.
We'll just break it up in the PO and quote it over to Board of Ed for theirs, but you would manage it. And they
Yeah.
would pay you for it.
And their contract right now is $1,997. They're high, couple dollars. That's the biggest, $135,000.
Fran, when we sell the building, you can take the 55 Ford that's in there, and you can give it to the ambulance. It's a little newer.
It's an antique.
It's a
Like you
diesel?
go to Porsche.
Is it a diesel?
Oh, natural gas.
Oh, wow.
Okay, any questions on emergency management?
The last,
Everything else is
Okay,
Fran, and the last piece is that the police department will be proposing a generator replacement in their capital that will somehow adjust what you're working on.
yeah, because if we're not gonna need, at least for the first couple of years, that, for the police department generator.
That's the biggest one, right?
So, the part of the.
Oh, yeah, okay. But I mean, the biggest town one.
And that depends on the delivery date, install date that they can meet. Mm.
okay, Ben, you wanna go run in the safety patrol while you're there? Okay,
What's that? You will?
yeah, 825.
Oh, okay, I guess.
He had already brought it up before the other one.
So there's no change.
He said no change.
Yeah, okay.
He already brought it up.
I missed that voice across talk. All right, okay, so good, no questions there? Okay, thank you, Fran.
Just so you know, as we speak, the clerk being given a presentation to each change. Late this afternoon,
Oh, is that perfect?
Okay,
the screw fell out of my glasses and I can't find it.
okay, for our,
Thank
you just- that order, our last presentation tonight, we, Danny Martins for the fireplace.
Good evening, everybody.
No.
Numbers, are significantly higher for us this year.
No, these are.
Or at least what I'm proposing, so, this past year, so we're all volunteer, we averaged just shy of 1,900 hours, it was a little lower than the year prior, which was around almost 2,800 hours. However, last year itself, we managed to man 23 town events, and that include, mutual aid to Sandy Hook, as well as doing 11 police department standbys. Since last year, we've now jumped to assisting PD. So Lieutenant Otis Baskin is now our liaison, so we do directly respond to PD when asked. Currently this year, we're at 178 man hours. We've done 3 storm standbys, so in prep for storm, 2 of which were winter and 1 was not a microburst, but some sort of rain event that was coming and usually roads flood. We were called to do standby for the police department. So this past year, a good half of our budget went towards getting police radios. So we now currently have 3. So the proposal for this upcoming year is to get potentially another 4. That way we have them. So we're not borrowing them from police department. So currently our 3 officers, self, the captain, and my 2 lieutenants have a police radio, so we can directly communicate with them. Another one-time sort of big purchase would be the Class A uniforms. We currently have no formal uniform to represent both departments when we do a formal event, whether it be in the parade, some tragic events such as a funeral. We don't have anything that has a formal Class A uniform. So that would be the big kind of ticket item The other item I put in there, would be for a food allowance. Again, we're all volunteer. I feel like it would be a good way to recruit and retain members. We currently have 13 members. We did up to last year at 16, a few dropped, one moved. I do feel like a meal allowance would be appropriate to keep members engaged, especially when doing long events. Last year itself, we had 23 events and several of them are 12+ hours. And a lot of our guys just either bring their own or they kind of just go through the whole night without snacking something. So I felt like that would be a good way to kind of keep members doing events.
Any questions for Dan?
Well,
They save us a ton of money in overtime for other emergency services.
Yeah, we did several standbys, for a couple more vehicle accidents that involved police investigations, one on Baldwin Street, another one on, I believe, Sultana, we had a standby. So we do a lot of fill in for PD till they hire private duty. So we're called in at every hour of the night. In fact, during the Water Street fire incident, 3 nights in a row, we were called third shift between 2 and 6 in the morning, and we had a guy, well, at least one member there, on their own volunteering to close the road down the entire. You know, we go when we can, of course, but that would be, sort of, we like what we do and we enjoy doing it for the town. And we had a couple other, you know, we like doing what we do, and I feel like an increase in uniforms and things would be fitting for.
Minor thing, but you got flashlights in here twice.
Yeah, we could omit one of those. I also have one line item, that was intended to be footwear. I apologize. This was my first time doing this. Normally it was one of the chiefs that did it. This is my first year doing it. It's my 3rd year as captain. We're kind of learning the ropes as going through that, so I do apologize.
They need backup flashlights in case the first one's failed.
Yes, you do.
Don't worry.
Always have two bucks.
Yeah, an extra 8, so it's okay.
No, sorry, the footwear one would have been the traffic shirts along the short sleeve. The second one that's loose. That would get us, we don't have set footwear. For fur, you have that.
Any other questions for Danny? Diane?
There's a large line item. 14,000 for the uniforms. How often would they be used, like, and if you looked at this past year or the year before that, how often would they be used?
I'm not really sure, maybe half a dozen times, up to a dozen times a year, I would say.
That many times?
Potentially.
Any other questions for Danny? Megan, do you have?
So just so you
Oh,
understand,
I thought you looked like you were ready to skulk here.
No, I was just like, oh, hopefully that doesn't happen. I want to do funeral
No,
stuff,
no. Okay.
so this is the first cut, so, you know, as a longtime advocate for your group, we're for everything here. But when we get to the end of the budget, it's possible that something could be deferred to next year. I mean, you're gonna basically get everything, whether you get it all this year or over 2 years. We'll wait for that until we get to the end and we see what it looks like, which I think would make some sense.
Okay. Anything else for Danny? Thank you, Danny. Good job.
Thank you.
For first time out, not bad. You did a good
Yeah.
job.
Thank you.
It's always nervous sitting over there first time.
By the way, you didn't fully explain it, but now that they're led by Lieutenant Baskins, he's given them a lot more police work, and
Yeah,
they're
doing
the
great.
eyes and ears of the department, and they're really, you know, an extension of the police force to some extent, and it's a good thing.
Oh,
And it makes, the police are happy with it, and it makes your guys feel better too. So it's good.
They're very professional outfit. They do very well. And known throughout the state for how well you do. Good reputation. Okay, that's all we have for presentations for tonight. Next week is administrative, elections, tax department, assessor, legal department, human resources, elderly program, and settlement of legal claims. Okay. And that, make a motion to adjourn at 7:17.
So moved.
Moved by James, all in favor?
Aye.
All good. Thank you for participation.
Yeah.
Yes. Let me stop recording here.